Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E. Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And today, man, the 49ers absolutely dominated the Colts. Brock Purdy, a career best night in the NFL, in his NFL career, and he just absolutely torched the Colts did something that nobody has done as the quarterback for the 49ers since Joe Montana.
Hey everyone, this is Dwayne Boyd, four-time Super Bowl champion with the San Francisco 49ers. And watching the game, I thought the secondary was just average today against a 44-year-old quarterback who couldn't get the ball 4 yards down the field. And the guy threw for 277 yards against him. Man, it'll be hard for me to sleep tonight if I would be thinking about that. The guy's a grandpa, okay? You let grandpa dominate you in the passing game.
I'm Eric Crocker, one half of the Locked On San Francisco 49ers crew, and I'm here to talk about Jonathan Taylor, 49ers, holding him to less than 3 yards per carry, 16 carries for 46 yards in the game. How exactly the 49ers do it? We're going to talk about that.
We'll get into all that and more right now on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us in another Locked On 49ers Squad Show. And thanks for making us your first listen for everything you need to know 49ers. Shout out all of our everydayers. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this NFL season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. And tonight, Brock Purdy was probably cashing a lot of bets on FanDuel tonight, man. He was going off at the quarterback position. 5 touchdowns through the air for Brock. 3 of them came in the first half. Both of those things he had never done in his NFL career. And as I said in the open, no 49ers quarterback has thrown for 5 touchdowns in a football game since you were out there doing the damn thing with Joe Montana. And Brock was surgical tonight with his timing. And you know, let's start with you, Crocky. How did you see Brock operating tonight? What was he doing that was allowing receivers to catch these balls in wide open spaces? Seemed like the timing was perfect. What did you see from Brock tonight?
Now, I thought this was Brock Purdy's best game, and I don't want to be one to kind of live in the moment, but I've watched a lot of Brock Purdy, and he's had some terrific games and definitely some really terrific outings. And to me, this didn't have anything to do with the 5 touchdown passes and almost 300 yards, although obviously that helps the overall look of the performance. But for me, it was just the consistent location of the ball. Like the Colts beat up secondary, and that's a secondary that's been bad all season long. I mean, and before you even talk about Travarius Ward or Sauce Gardner missing and those guys. But it wasn't like Brock was throwing into these big gaping windows time after time. We've seen that, right, where the offense just kind of generates these big windows or voids in the defense for Brock Purdy to throw the ball into. This was Brock throwing his receivers open. 2 of what were my favorite throws from this game were deemed incomplete. One, obviously, the Tunges should have been touchdown, where he did the toe tag drag and everything, got his feet down in the end zone, should have been a touchdown. But the other one that probably will go a little unnoticed was just the location of the ball to the corner of the end zone to George Kittle, where it went off of one of his hands. Yeah. And for me, time and time again, I saw Brock Purdy put the ball in the position for his guy to make a play and make it very difficult for the defender. So on top of that, I thought he did a terrific job. I know he had the one interception that ricocheted off of Kendrick Bourne's hand. But for the most part, he didn't have the turnover-worthy throws. There's times where Brock may get away from a game without throwing an interception, but through several interceptable balls. That did not happen in this game for the most part. I just thought it was a terrific overall performance. And the last thing I'll say on it was, I've been listening to a lot of Nick Saban. And one thing that Nick Saban harps on is process over results. So sometimes we see the results and we'll look at stats and you see all these big numbers and touchdowns and all that. But to me, that doesn't mean that this quarterback just played at this great high level. when you see how Brock played tonight and the throws that he was consistently making into the locations in which he was throwing against very tight coverage, that was excellent. So I was very just blown away by how he played. Again, not the best secondary in the league, but I thought he went above and beyond even what you would expect against a team like that.
Yeah, I mean, he was, like you said, surgical tonight. I mean, that you look at the first 2 touchdown throws specifically, the one over the middle to Robinson was just a frozen rope, just on the money, right where it needed to be. And it was a throw over the middle that could have been a little bit dangerous if he was a little bit late on the throw, or if he didn't have enough juice to it. It would have been a high probability of being intercepted, but he got the ball there right when it needed to arrive, and results in a touchdown for the 49ers. Then the second one is one that really impressed me, and Dwayne and I were just talking about this a little bit before we started the show, but watching him roll out to his right, damn near run out of bounds, like got right to the point where he was going to either run out of bounds, past the first down marker or the line of scrimmage rather, and not be able to throw the ball anymore, or he was going to have to get rid of the ball in some way, and he throws back across his body over the middle of the field to George Kittle, and it's a touchdown. And it was just, he had to place that ball right in that exact spot. Otherwise, that's a pick. Like, how many times do we hear you should not throw a pass back across your body over the middle of the field? And yet when Brock seems to do these off-schedule things, it works out for him. And Dwayne, one of the things that I saw Brock doing a lot tonight was getting a lot of different guys involved in the offense. 7 different guys caught a pass tonight. And it was it just seemed like he was clicking in rhythm with the entire offense. Wasn't really just in rhythm with one guy, but just the entire offense. And we talked a little bit about the kind of connection that when a quarterback and a coach get going, it can really produce some special results. And was that what you were seeing tonight from Brock and Shanahan? Was just that those 2 guys were lockstep tonight?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier in the week about how Purdy and Shanahan is they're kind of locked in on the play calls, and the thing that was, you were right about Purdy. He was real impressive tonight. I think he only had one bad throw, and that was on the interception where he didn't get to step into the ball. So I don't count that as an interception thrown by him, but it was by not being able to finish his process of throwing the ball, stepping into it and throwing it, because I'm pretty sure it would have been a completion. But the thing that's really impressive too going down the road is how much farther can he gain? How much more can he get in the Shanahan's head? And the thing too to set it up too, a lot of his passes was a play action pass, because we talked about that too. They came out in 21 personnel, and it seems like that's the personnel that they should be in, because that's the best people on the field. Okay, when you're playing 21 personnel, when you come out with 11 personnel, they don't have that. They don't have the 11 personnel to go out and play, and they got away from the zone read too, with 21 personnel. Okay, it was a lot of tosses and cutbacks, and they were stretching the defense. And when you get that, then you see Purdy sitting back there. He's at In-N-Out Burger ordering a meal for the night. He got so much time, and he was only sacked one time today, so that's great too. The offensive line fits that mode of offense. That play action pass stuff and being able to run the ball and set it up.
Yeah, I really thought the offensive line played well tonight in all phases. I mean, I felt like Brock had a ton of time to throw while he was back there, and also in the run game. I mean, they kind of showed you a little bit. They had Aikman breaking it down on the Sunday Night Football broadcast with the whole telestration thing, doing his best John Madden impersonation. But yeah, the offensive line was walling some stuff off tonight for McCaffrey, and as you saw for Christian McCaffrey tonight, it wasn't just all Brock Purdy. Christian McCaffrey had maybe his best night running the football for the 49ers. 117 yards, 5.6 yards per carry, had his longest rush of the season, a 24-yard rush, and he just looked more explosive to me tonight. Crocky, were you seeing some more explosiveness from McCaffrey as well, or what would you attribute the 5.6 yards per carry that we saw from him tonight?
I wouldn't say more explosive. I think if we would have seen a more explosive version of him, he would have scored on that 24-yard touchdown run. and you saw like, the old CMC would have been able to make a move because there was one guy he had to
one
beat.
guy left.
one guy, and he would have found a way to get by that one guy, like the younger version of CMC. But nonetheless, he did a terrific job of taking a lot of what was there and being able to run through some arm tackles and pick up some more yards there. I thought the 49ers did a really good job several times of getting him to the edge and trying to wall it off, picking up some really good gains. And I thought he finished those runs really strong, putting the 49ers in a more kind of advantageous position on third and short yards. And the 49ers did a terrific job playing in that aspect of the game. But a lot of stuff was really good when it came to Christian McCaffrey and just how he was seeing it and how things were being blocked up. And it wasn't just the offensive line. I think a lot of people are going to look to that. Watching George Kittle pancake guys out of bounds, watching, fullbacks come out and he's blocking all the way down the field. I thought it was a really good group collective effort by the 49ers bigs to really consistently move bodies out the way against their will.
Yeah, and it was a chippy game tonight, man. I mean, there were multiple times where you saw, the officials kind of have to go in and separate some guys, and it was a passion-filled Monday Night Football for sure, with the 49ers and Colts sparring tonight. And you had a Siegel on that special teams play, just absolutely dominating the Colts special teams player out of bounds and just not letting him. It was the gunner, I'm pretty sure, on one of the Colts punts. He just did not let him get down the field at all. And so it was really all phases of the game. Like you said, everybody on this team really showed up today for the 49ers in the smallest ways and in the biggest ways. I mean, like I kind of said to Dwayne earlier, we had 7 different players tonight that had a reception for the 49ers, including like Sky Moore, who got involved in the pass game a little bit, had a 23-yard reception, nice big play for Sky Moore, and Kendrick Bourne, who ended up going over his 500-yard total, so he gets that $500,000 check for hitting his incentive for the season, which, I mean, that's kind of for me, I think that's kind of a big deal, man, because Kendrick Bourne is a guy that you just picked up off the scrap heap. You got him for next to nothing in the middle of the season, and it's a guy who's contributed in a real way to the 49ers winning some games this year. And I think it's safe to say that without him in a couple weeks, it would have been really hard to find out where some of those passing yards are coming from. You think about that, those really big weeks he had with Mac Jones at quarterback early in the season. So shout out KB, third in KB for getting that $500,000 payday with that reception tonight. But he almost didn't get it, Dwayne. He dropped that first one, huh? You were saying earlier you thought he should have maybe snagged that first one instead of leaving it up to chance, on that second one.
Yeah, I thought, he had the ball in his hands. Looked like he was so excited about making the money than securing the ball at the end. Hey, I would squeeze that ball so hard it would have popped. It's $500,000 catch right there. How did you know if it would ever come back your way again? It totally blew me away. But like you said, he got his money, and you got to hand it to him. Okay, he's done a great job since he came over to the 49ers. But the guy going back, Ricky. He was inactive, It would have been a great game for him, but I don't know. I'm going to Ricky, I'm going to give him a new nickname. I'm going to call him Crystal. Every time he gets touched, he might break,
Man, Ricky Pearsall didn't go through all that Union Square experience and come out on the other side of it the way he did just to be called Crystal on the Locked On 49ers squad show, man. But I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you.
Okay, because hey, that guy, every time he gets touched, he breaks,
Yeah,
so
man, those soft tissue injuries with those fast, twitchy guys, it makes you concerned about their longevity in the NFL. I mean, we've seen a lot of guys who just can't withstand the physicality. And a guy that we've talked about in the past before, I don't know if we did on air or not, Dwayne, but Pearsall in a different way, not necessarily the same physical body type, but kind of reminds me a little bit of like Percy Harvin when he, also went to Florida and came out with the Seahawks, and two guys that you just want to get the ball to them in space and watch them work. And you haven't really been able to see Pearsall stay on the field because of those soft tissue injuries. And that's kind of the same thing you saw from Percy Harvin up there in Seattle too, not able to stay on the field. And he had like the whole migraine issue thing, which was, unfortunate for him. But eventually, that kind of the availability aspect was the thing that took him out of the NFL essentially. So you hope that that's not the same way that Ricky Pearsall goes, and you hope that this guy can find a way back into this 49ers offense, because man, he has been awesome for the 49ers in some games this year. And with the team clicking the way it is right now with Shanahan and Purdy just in lockstep, I think it would be the time that you would start to see Ricky Pearsall come alive. And what better time than now with the 49ers in control of their own destiny, heading down to the last 2 weeks of the season. You went out, you're the number 1 overall seed with the Super Bowl being held in Santa Clara at Levi Stadium. I mean, the 49ers are in an amazing position, and you would love to have Ricky Pearsall there. But my question is, Dwayne, can they keep this level of production even without a Ricky Pearsall, and maybe potentially without a George Kittle, because Kittle did have that injury to the ankle tonight. He did not return. We did see Tonjes, he could play pretty well after Kittle left. He should have had that touchdown, had a nice other, first down reception near the sideline on the right-hand side of the field, also after Kittle went out. So if Kittle misses some time, if Pearsall misses some time going forward, do you trust this 49ers offense to keep on humming, Dwayne?
Well, right now the quarterback's humming, and it doesn't. I don't think it matters to Brock Purdy who he's throwing the ball to, because it seems like he has a lot of trust in every guy who has his hands involved in catching the ball. But you would love to have Kittle, you would love to have Ricky down the stretch right now. I mean, what do you think, Croc?
Yeah, I'm not sure it really matters either. I think what Brock does a really good job of is just understanding where guys are supposed to be in the 49ers offense, and he's throwing to spots and counting on his guys to win. So you talked about having the trust in these guys. I think he definitely does. I think some of that trust was kind of grown with Ricky Pearsall, and you see him have like a big game, and it's like, okay, that's what he can bring. But when he's out and you see the first touchdown go to Demarcus Robinson, it's like, well, I guess it's kind of plug and play with some of these guys the 49ers have out there at receiver.
But you watch him though. Yeah, okay, against Tongas, okay, he had the one catch. Eric, you remember earlier, right, where he had the one catch, almost did the toe tap for the touchdown. But then what did Brock do? He came back to him, right? So he trusts those guys, and that's important. He has trust in all his receivers, and he doesn't have one guy that he would share that he would go away from. Because if you look at the game that he just played this week, hey, he got everybody involved. But the guy that was most involved was Kittle. A tight end can't be your number 1 receiver. You got to have one guy on the outside with speed or something.
Yeah. I mean, the one, is it too crazy to say that all the injuries and all the, instability at the wide receiver position in Brock Purdy's tenure as the 49ers quarterback, is it crazy to say that all of that has kind of led Brock to just being able to trust himself rather than trusting who's out there and trust in Kyle Shanahan and the offense? Like, Crocky, do you think it's more at this point in Brock's career, do you think he's even looking at the number on the chest when he's throwing the ball?
Nah, I think he runs the offense the way Kyle Shanahan wants him to. And I think Kyle, if you want to talk about anybody having faith in guys, I think it's Kyle Shanahan having faith in guys being where they're supposed to be when he calls a certain play. And I'd have to guess there are certain things that he may feel more comfortable with certain guys out there. Like, I don't think he's going to run the exact same plays with Tonjes out there as opposed to when he has Kittle out there, right? But there are certain things where he's saying, hey, we're going to work this offense. They ran a ton of play action with those crossers and digs and in-breaking routes. I am shocked that the coach didn't say, you know what, let's play a little bit of one robber. Let's take away that in-breaking route and have a robber safety come. They never did it, and the 49ers kept completing that over and over. But I think, a lot of times it was Juwan Jennings tonight catching that square in. I think if you put Kendrick Bourne in that spot, he would catch it. I think if you put Demarcus Robinson in that spot, he'd catch it. So I think that's the one thing that Kyle Shanahan has really done a good job of, building an offense that's pretty universal no matter what receiver he has out there. I think the ending results are the things that change a little bit more, right? And what I mean by that is the 49ers have really lacked that yards after catch. When you have Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, those guys out there, the younger version of George Kittle, there was a lot of yak yards the 49ers getting. Right now, you're seeing a lot of catches and guys getting tackled. So I think that's what they miss more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a testament to, like you said, to Kyle Shanahan and Brock as well, because you see a lot of offenses that kind of operate on the premise, like, you know, when you had, for instance, when you had Jerry Rice down here, if Joe Montana was in trouble or if Steve Young was in trouble, you got 80 down there. Just chuck it up. See if Jerry's down there somewhere. You know what I mean? Or you know, you saw a lot of that in with guys like Randy Moss and you know, super top tier wide receivers. The 49ers have not had a guy like that in a while. I mean, Deebo was, you know, great for what he was in the sense of playing that wide back role, but he wasn't like I'm going to go up and moss you and we're going to have, you know, three receptions for 150 plus yards and 3 touchdowns. It's just not Deebo's game. And so the 49ers being able to do what they're doing with the guys that they got out there, it continues to impress me, man. And I kind of want to parlay that conversation into Kyle Shanahan. Is he a coach of the year candidate, man? We were talking about this a little bit before we started the show, so let's talk about it now on the show. Is Kyle Shanahan a coach of the year candidate? We'll talk about that next and more on the other side here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Car Gurus. Car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. And with Car Gurus, you get the confidence you deserve. They cut through all the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars you want. Because when it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal. And Car Gurus makes that whole process simple by giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else. So you can shop the way you really want to. Use Car Guru's deal ratings to compare cars quickly without having to guess whether that price is fair or having to go use another website to look up this information after you see what the initial price is. You'll love being able to filter by everything: mileage, trim, features. So you're only seeing cars that actually fit what you want and what you need. And their price drops alerts are a lifesaver. You get notified the second a car you're watching becomes a better deal. Car Gurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process. With over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace, you'll always find the best deal. Shop the way you want with the tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy. Buy or sell your car today at cargurus.com. That's CARGURUS.com. cargurus.com. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion, and Eric Crocker, one half of the Locked On 49ers podcast. And guys, tonight, Kyle Shanahan was, as Brock Purdy said in his post-game interview, in his bag. And Kyle Shanahan's been in his bag all damn year, keeping this team afloat with just the plethora of injuries that they have had, the nonstop onslaught. You know, we talk about it every week. George Kittle, Nick Bosa, the list goes on and on and on. We don't need to name every single guy who's missed time for the 49ers on this show. Otherwise, that's all we're going to do for the next 47 minutes of this show. But it's pretty insane to me that that they are where they are, and Shanahan leading the charge, man, with this offense and with Brock Purdy, and just as you saw today, just pushing the right buttons at the right times to get this offense clicking. Doesn't matter who is out there, as we just got done talking about. So, all things considered, Crocky, are you feeling like Kyle Shanahan's maybe got a chance to win Coach of the Year in the NFL this season?
Well, he definitely has a big chance. I think if you checked the odds a couple of weeks ago, it was at like plus 1,000, right? So that was the time to really jump on Coach of the Year as it pertains to Kyle Shanahan. But right now, I bet his odds a little bit better in favor of him. Now, there's some other coaches that are doing a terrific job as well. Look at what Vrabel's doing, Ben Johnson, what he's doing. Seattle Seahawks, they're currently the 1 seed in the NFC right now. It's definitely in the NFC West. So there are a lot of coaches that are doing a remarkable job. But I think what makes Kyle Shanahan's job so unique, what he's done this season, is the amount of money the amount of millions that's been sitting on the sideline, just not playing because of injuries, whether it be Brandon Ayuk, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, the amount of games your starting quarterback, Brock Purdy, missed. George Kittle missed some games. Juwan Jennings missed some games. Your first round pick, with 11th or 12th overall pick, Michael Williams, he's out. There is a lot of money that is sitting out for the San Francisco 49ers. So to still figure out a way to have 11 wins at this point in the season with 2 games to go, I think that is the most difficult and most challenging job that any coach has this season. So if it's me, Kyle Shanahan should be the front runner for it. But again, there are some other coaches. Vrabel, it's his first year with New England, and right now they have one of the best records in the NFL. It's kind of hard to just count him out.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel's been impressive out there with New England. I don't think anybody really saw that coming. I for sure thought they were going to be an improved team this year with Vrabel coming over, because he just is a good coach. You saw the way Tennessee dropped off after he left, and you saw how they got better while he was there. And even if they didn't have the best roster every season that he was there, they were still pretty competitive most years. But Dwayne, I have a sense you're maybe not feeling the same way as Crocky. So are you vibing with the Kyle Shanahan Coach of the Year vibes, or are you feeling a different way?
Well, I'm feeling different because I think, if he can run the game the next 2 weeks, yeah, and get into the playoffs and be the number 1 seed, yeah. But right now, no. I'm looking at New England, because the thing that the Patriots done was, what did he do with the quarterback? I mean, he made Mark May a quarterback, I think. The guy last year, you looked at him, he was drafted out of North Carolina, and it looked like, well, he's going to be a bust. And right now, that guy's playing like all world. He's playing like an MVP. Do you think, that he doesn't deserve that? And I really do. And the thing about it, we talked about it earlier, was, hey, what happens when the East Coast controls what happens, okay? Because when the West Coast plays, all the people on the East Coast that votes for the the Coach of the Year, they all going to sleep. When the 49ers nobody's watching the 49ers, and that's the way it is. It's the same thing with the Pro Football Hall of Fame voting too. You look at all the teams that get all the players into the Hall of Fame on the East Coast, and you look at the West Coast guys. Okay, from the 49ers beginning in 1980. 81 winning Super Bowls all the way up until 94. Look how many guys went to the Hall of Fame. And then you look at Pittsburgh, how many guys they got. It's like every year they got a guy going to Hall of Fame, okay? New York Giants, they got a guy going to Hall of Fame. 49ers, what do they have? We get nothing, on the West Coast. Same thing. All the teams on the West Coast, they get overlooked. So that's what I look at it as. It's going to be hard for Shanahan to make it because of the East Coast teams. The guy in Jacksonville, he's got a great chance of making it. He took a quarterback who I thought was just a guy, and now he's playing like Superman. And that's what's going to happen. It's all going to come down to the coaches on the East Coast are going to get the Player of the Year. They don't care about the West Coast.
Jacksonville Jaguars also 11-4 and beat the 49ers in a head-to-head battle. So
yeah, they did. They did.
Yeah.
I do have a feeling that I think Vrabel is probably the inside horse on this one at this point. But I do think that if the Patriots slip up at all down this down in the last couple of weeks, and if they have if they get beat real bad in 1 week, or maybe they lose both their last 2 games, I don't know who they're playing these last 2 weeks. But if the Seahawks and 49ers meet on Sunday night, or it's a TBD game, but I have a feeling they're going to slot that into a primetime slot, right? That 49ers and Seahawks game that will probably decide the fate of the NFC West at the looks of how things are going. And I think that you could make a case for either head coach, Mike McDonald or Kyle Shanahan, if whichever one of those teams, if they win out and win the NFC West and hold down that first overall seed in the NFC, I think you got to take a long, hard look at one of those guys, whoever does it, and give them some consideration too. Now, if Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears beat the 49ers, next week, then none of this matters because Kyle Shanahan's not in the discussion anymore. And then Ben Johnson inserts himself into that discussion a little bit further, which no shortage of craziness that's been going on in Chicago this season. Ben Johnson has them winning a lot of football games, coming back in a lot of games late in the fourth quarter. So it's just been a pretty crazy year for the NFL. And as far as coach of the year goes, it's going to come down to probably these last two seasons. But I think the 49ers care a lot more about just winning these last two damn games than than getting Kyle Shanahan the coach of the year. I'm sure that would be a nice little feather in the cap. But man, if they're going to do that, they're going to need the defense to take some things that they did tonight and learn from them. And I mean that in a couple different ways, right? So let's start with the positive. I want to be a positive guy. The 49ers won tonight. So let's start with something to, maybe reflect on positively that we saw tonight. 49ers front seven. They did a hell of a job stopping Jonathan Taylor, as Eric Crocker pointed out in the very beginning of our show. And I really liked what I saw from the two very young defensive tackles that they have, CJ West and Alfred Collins, both of whom got sacks today, in addition to being a big help in that run game. Crocky, what was working for that 49ers D-line, and how did these two rookies flash so big tonight?
Well, against the run, just watching them, right? Because against the pass, you still had some of the same issues. Obviously, watching CJ West, watching Alfred get their first career sacks, that was definitely awesome. And there was a little bit of push there. But just watching that get off against the run, I thought not only were they terrific and being gap sound, but watching the linebackers and how they were flying and playing their gaps. And then they weren't giving up much leak yardage. When those guys were making contact with Jonathan Taylor, he was going down right there at the line. So it looked to me like they're getting all 11 hats of the ball. People are being gap sound, and that was the best I've seen the 49ers run defense really throughout the season. And I felt like the 49ers really had the Colts overmatched. But if there was one area that could keep the Colts in the game, it would have been to consistently be able to run, especially with the way that Phillip Rivers was throwing the ball. And I think it got to a point where they realized we can't run the ball with any type of real success. On the game, Jonathan Taylor averaged under 3 yards per carry. Then Phillip Rivers is going to have to try to win the game. And I don't think they really want Phillip Rivers to have to try to win you the game after sitting out the last 5 seasons.
Yeah, throwing the ball 35 times tonight for Phillip Rivers, I don't think was in the game script for the Colts. And you're right, Jonathan Taylor, 2.9 yards per rush. Only had 46 rushing yards tonight. That's a hell of a job the 49ers defense did against this guy. That might be his lowest rushing total of a single game this entire season. I need to go double check that, but they did a hell of a job. And CJ West specifically, I thought was really impressive the way that he was kind of eating those double teams and still being able to make plays off of them. I think that's something the 49ers defensive line has really missed these last this season specifically, and kind of missed it a little bit last year when Hargrave just wasn't really the same. And Dwayne, as a guy who played the damn position, how much easier does it make the pass rushers' jobs when you have a guy in the middle of that defensive line that can handle a double team or two and get you some one-on-one matchups on the outside? And so I think tonight it would bode pretty well for the 49ers, who were able to get home to Phillip Rivers.
I thought, those two guys inside did a great job of getting push-up on Phillip Rivers and getting the ball and making him not being able to step into his throw. That's why he threw high, and that's why the 49ers got the only pick of the day, with Winters, and he couldn't step into his throw, and they was doing a good job. But the thing that the 49ers are lacking now is an outside rusher, a guy who can come off and wreak havoc on the edge, and that's going to be a big thing down the road when the games get more. Well, the next two games are serious, and they're going to need that against the two quarterbacks that they're coming up against. And if you're going to rush 4 people without having to bring 5, one thing that I was disappointed in too in the 49ers secondary, if you go back and look at it, those guys only had 4 pass defensives. Okay, he threw the ball 37 times. They only got the ball. They only got the ball on it. Got the hand on the ball 5 times. That's not good. They got to tighten the coverage up, and that's one thing that I felt like the 49ers was lacking today was the was the pass coverage, and it was too many guys running wide open. It was like, Philip Rivers, he's 44 years old, and grandkids, and he's sitting back there patting his foot, waiting for somebody to get deep, but he couldn't get the ball to him. So he had to go to the check down, and guess what? The check down was open. So they got to tighten the coverage up big time.
We did see Diamador Lenore get a little bit turned around there late in this one, and just bad visual when you lose sight of the ball and the receiver adjusts and you don't as a DB. And there were a few times that, Alec Pierce is getting over the top of the defense, and Philip Rivers is finding him for these 20-yard gains, found him for a touchdown. I found him for a couple of touchdowns in this one. I mean, it was a big day for Alec Pierce, but I feel like, and Josh Downs even beat him a couple times too. I was kind of surprised that Rivers was able to get the ball there a couple times on those deep passes, but you saw some other plays where, Rivers had the guy open and just the arm strength, it really wasn't there for him to zip that ball in there. Crocky, are you seeing any signs from this 49ers pass defense that concern you going into these games against the Bears and the Seahawks, where you're going to have quarterbacks that have a little bit better arm strength than a Philip Rivers?
I expected the 49ers to have some struggles on the back end, a lot of young guys, and now you're seeing guys out, injured. So I expected some up and down play, but this is definitely alarming. I did head into the season even with thinking there's going to be a healthy Nick Bosa and a healthy Fred Warner and a healthy Williams out there, that the offense was going to have to carry the 49ers team. So when you see games like this where the defense is giving up a lot of points, but the offense is able to put up enough, and obviously seeing the 49ers defense score a defensive touchdown as well, those are the ways I think the 49ers really need to continue to win. And there was one other area too, getting a special teams turnover. I highlighted that on Locked On 49ers. One of my keys to victory was the best special teams unit in the NFL continue to look like the best special teams unit. And you saw Skylar Moore get some big returns out there, give the 49ers an opportunity before the half. You watched the turnover that they got, and then not even having to use your punter for an entire game. So shout out to the 49ers special teams unit. It's been the most consistent unit for the 49ers all season long, and it's really going underrated.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Morstead hasn't kicked a ball in a game since November. He hasn't had to do it at all. And we're almost, he's going to be able to celebrate his entire month of December and Christmas before he has to punt the ball again. That's crazy. I mean, this guy, he's just hanging out, doing his stretches on the sideline, like acting like he thinks he's going to go in. He knows that 49ers offense is just going to keep humming. But the special teams unit has been, this turnaround is absolutely insane, man. For this unit to go from just dog water level bad for like 3-4 seasons in a row to be in one of, like you said, one of, if not clearly at this point, the best special teams unit in the NFL. Jair Brown with the punch out in the special teams today, forcing that fumble early in this one too. And it was kind of, the Colts and Niners were trading blows at that point, and it felt like the Colts were kind of hanging around offensively, and that turned the tide of this one like big time. Like that was a huge turn of events for the 49ers. And Dwayne, you always tell me you got to pack two things on the road: your defense and your special teams. So when you do bring those special teams with you, man, how much easier does it make? What's that do for the other units, for your offense and for your defense, knowing that your special teams is just going to go out there and get the job done? Like, you don't have to worry about any extracurriculars that are going to happen, and you're going to maybe get a fumble here, a turnover there, a big kick return, every now and again from Sky Moore, what seems like at least once a game from Sky Moore. What's that do for the other two units as far as like their psyche goes throughout the game?
Yeah, it's a big boost, because you look at it right before going in the half. Okay, that's a 64-yard field goal that was dinked off the goalpost. So he hit it dead center. If he would have been 6 inches higher, it would have been good. And that's a big thing when you got a kicker that that can go 63 yards. If Kendrick Bourne would have, gained another 6 inches, he would have made that field goal. So, but that's a big thing, when your special teams are producing and coming up with turnovers and the kicker is working, it's magic. It's magic for the whole team. And when you got a guy that lines up and misses a 22-yard field goal, hey, that's a drag going into halftime, but it kind of fired me up when he was going for a 64-yarder and hit it at the crossbar, man. That's unbelievable, and it was dead center too.
Yeah, and I mean, you had Sky Moore with that big kick return to set up that whole thing, and it's night and day different, right, from what you've seen the last couple of years. If the 49ers are receiving a kickoff with 20-something seconds left, you're thinking, all right, we're sitting on the ball going to halftime. We'll see what happens. Yeah. And with Sky Moore back there, you might get a field goal opportunity still too if you got a timeout or two in the pocket. And, I mean, it really changes the calculus of how you think about the ends of halves with the 49ers. And it's almost like a luxury for them to have at this point, because I know that, I see in the chat someone pointing out that the Patriots always have good special teams, and the Patriots obviously, up until these last few years, always perennially going deep in the playoffs and having deep playoff runs. And all the good teams in the NFL seem to have, that calling card of a solid special teams unit if you're going to be a perennial playoff team. The 49ers are like the one exception to that rule. And we've kind of gotten used to that, I feel like, in the 49er faithful community, where we just expect, a Kyle Williams-esque, return situation at least once out of the year or something like that. Just something, a Jake Moody event where you miss, 3 field goals in one game or something. Like, that's just something we're used to. And for that to not even be like a thought at this point, oh my God, it has completely changed how I watch 49ers games at this point. And, before we take our next break and move on from the defense and special teams topics, I feel like we got to give some more shine to D Winters, because we've kind of broached the pick that he had and that it was in a big moment. But man, 5 minutes left in the game, you turn the ball over, you give the ball back to Phillip Rivers. It's only down 2 scores at that point. And the Colts offense, like you said, they were moving the ball throughout this entire game. I mean, they scored 27 points. They were not having a super hard time getting points. So at that moment, I kind of had a little bit, like, I wasn't too worried, but I was like, I don't really want to see Phillip Rivers doing his thing with 5 minutes left and, a comeback situation. And D Winters flies in, jumps the route on Tyler Warren, and picks one off, takes it 74 yards to the house. Crocky, what did you see from D Winters on this play? How was he just reading eyes? Did he maybe pick up on this route from earlier in the game? Did Warren, not do a good enough job selling the route? And, shout out D Winters, first NFL touchdown, first NFL interception as well.
Yeah, first career interception. And it was indeed a terrific interception by him, and especially jumping into that window. I'm pulling it up right now just to kind of get a refresher on exactly what he did. So getting a chance to kind of watch it live a little bit. And let's see. He definitely got in that window. Boom. Oh, man. So he just jumped the route. I mean, so the Colts ran a stick route right in front of him. Mm-hmm. He looked like he was going to go and reroute the tight end. The tight end kind of hooked up right there, and he took his shot. So you talked about if it was something he saw earlier. The way he reacted to undercutting the route looks like maybe it was something that he was either familiar with from early in the game, or maybe a tell that he saw on film, because he was ready to trigger right now. And there was zero hesitation from the time that the tight end ran that stick route to when he undercut it, picked it off. And D Winters, a guy who had 4.4 speed coming out of TCU, a guy who can fly. So once he caught it, there was no catching him.
Yeah, I mean, it looked to me like as soon as Warren even started to slow down, like in the slightest, I mean, D Winters had that foot planted and he was driving on that football. I mean, the timing of it looked like he just had like, like a vision of the future. He was having deja vu or something. He was like, oh, I know exactly what route's coming right now. And he just jumped all over it, man.
He almost took a step. So there was a running back going out to the flat, and he took like a half step to that. So real quick. So we run this concept, right? My high school, it's called stick concept. So we may call Y stick, right? So this looks like Y stick right there, where you have the tight end running the stick route, and then you have the shoot route by the running back. Now, all the quarterback is doing is reading the linebacker. The tight end or your Y, you want him to attack the inside shoulder of that linebacker. So when you attack that inside shoulder of the linebacker, all the quarterback is looking to see is, does the linebacker move towards the flat route to the shoot route, or does he stay on the stick? And D Winters took one step to the flat, and I think that was all it took for Phillip Rivers to say, "Oh, yep, I got him. Boom, I'm throwing it to Y on the stick route." Somehow D Winters was able to step left, but still react to the ball being thrown to the stick route and undercut it. That was a terrific job and a terrific read by him.
Incredible athleticism by D Winters on that play, and a hell of a play at a great time in this one for the 49ers. Really put this one out of reach. It felt closer than the final score indicates. Obviously 48-27 sounds like, belt to what, but for the 49ers, it was a little bit tighter than I wanted it to be going down the stretch. I said on the show on Wednesday with Brian Peacock, I absolutely did not want this to be like a Phillip Rivers with the ball in his hand, down one score with 2 minutes to go situation. That would have just been nightmare fuel for me. I've seen Phillip Rivers in that scenario way too many times do some really good things in his career. So glad the 49ers were able to avoid that. And in large part, thanks to D Winters. And the 49ers, there were a lot of things that happened in this game that just kind of fell their way. But there was really one moment that when this happened, I felt like I knew immediately that the 49ers were going to win this one. I'll tell you guys what I mean next on the other side here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, and every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. And FanDuel lets you jump into the moment right away. And man, I really hope you guys took my advice last week when I told you, lay the points, take the 49ers, they're covering, because that was another cash. The 49ers are on a roll right now with covering these spreads as favorites. And hey, guess what? I also told you, Brock Purdy, take the over on everything, on yards, on touchdowns, on completions. And guess what Brock did? He probably cashed out a lot of money for you if you listened to Triple E last week here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. So we'll give you another take later this week. And if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Dwayne Board, four-time Super Bowl champion, and Eric Crocker, one half of the Locked On 49ers podcast. And guys, tonight there's just some nights when it's your night, some nights when it's your not. I feel like, or when it's not your night. And I feel like anybody who's played sports at any level, like you know this, like you show up to the rec or whatever, and you start, putting up threes, and you just feel them. Like it feels good. The shot's going in. Some days you show up and if you're like me, more often than not, you show up, you put up a jumper, and you hit the backboard and not the rim, and you realize I'm just going to play in the post all game today. But tonight for the 49ers, they were shooting threes all night long, basically, with Brock Purdy hitting all those deep passes over the middle, standing back there, nice clean pockets, and he was just seeing the game slow down. And man, one of the plays that just, when it's going your way, it's just going your way, right? And Brock gets just his clock cleaned and fumbles the ball on a play where Luke Farrell lets his pass rusher come right by him. He isn't able to hold up on the outside. Ball pops up straight up in the air. Luke Farrell comes down with this ball and gets a 3-yard gain out of it. And I mean, Dwayne, when things like that are happening out there on the football field, and you're on the 49ers watching, Luke Farrell get positive 3 yards on a play that probably should have been the ball running back the other direction towards the Colts, towards the 49ers end zone for the Colts to score a touchdown. And instead, you got Luke Farrell with a positive gain on a play that had no business being anything positive for the 49ers. So when things like that are happening out there on the field, what does that do to your psyche as a guy who's out there playing?
Well, it's like when you're a little kid, man, and and it's Christmas, okay? And you're going to the Christmas tree and you're looking at the toys and you got the toy that you won, okay? And it's like, hey, it's my time because I let the guy, he beat me inside. He hit the quarterback. The ball flew up in the air, and guess who was there? Santa Claus. Santa Claus saved the moment, man. He brought the toy home, and it was positive yards. They gained 3 yards on the play, and when that happens, then it's our night, okay? And it's funny how you wish when the ball is round, you know where it's going to go, but the football's not round. You don't know where that ball is going to fall, but it didn't. It didn't hit the ground. It hit the hands of the guy who caused it, and that's positive. You know you're living right.
And I mean, for the 49ers, it just kind of felt like that night, right? Like everything was going right for them. Everything was clicking. And even when they had some mistakes sometimes, like they would let some they didn't have the best coverage, but then Phillip Rivers, lobs a nice little soft lollipop up there, and you can have time to recover and get there and make a nice PBU. And so you saw the 49ers kind of just things going their way tonight. And I have a feeling that that's not going to happen as much against these two teams that they got next, the Chicago Bears and the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think they're going to get a lot of, the ball just bouncing their way, because that tends, opportunity favors the prepared and all that kind of stuff. And all that's true. And I think the 49ers were just a little bit more prepared than the Indianapolis Colts were today, which, by the way, I just realized this was the Colts' first loss at home all season long. That's kind of crazy. But I mean, they had a hell of a start to the year with Daniel Jones, and just a bummer for that whole franchise to be in the situation that they're in with Daniel Jones having that Achilles injury. But what I'm trying to say is I think the Chicago Bears and the Seattle Seahawks are going to be teams that are a little bit more prepared than teams like the Indianapolis Colts at this point in time in the season, whether that's because of availability of star players or because of playoff push or whatever you want to call it. I think that those two teams, you're not going to have a situation like this happen where, you just happen to get turn a fumble into like a 3-yard positive gain for the 49ers. I don't think you're going to see too much of that against the Bears. And
that was pretty wild.
Dude, I mean, have you ever seen that happen, Crocky? Like anything remotely similar in all your years?
Just the way he was Johnny on the spot. I mean, that guy hit and popped in the air. And I mean, I think we've all seen the ball hit the ground and then somebody kind of pick it up and be able to, carry it for some yards. But to see it pop in the air and seamlessly go right into the hands of an offensive player and him pick up positive yards, that was probably one of the more underrated plays in this game that kind of went unnoticed, that put the 49ers or kept the 49ers out of like a really long yardage type of situation. It was first down and that ball hits the ground. Even if the 49ers recover behind the line of scrimmage, you're talking about 2nd and 14, and now you're behind the sticks. But to get it, pick up 3 yards, and now you make it to where the entire playbook continues to be open for the 49ers and really contribute to the 49ers not having to punt in this game. I thought that was a big underrated play.
I mean, the visual of it was crazy. I was curious to see before we started the show whether or not that was going to be recorded as a completed pass or not, and it was not. It was recorded as a fumble and a fumble recovery. But I think you could have made an argument for a completed pass there potentially. But I mean, I guess they ruled it would have been a fumble if that ball had been dropped by Farrell anyway. So fun game for the 49ers, fun play and a fun end result in this one for the red and gold. But 49ers, you got some tough tests coming up, and they do control their own destiny, which is all you can ask for at this point in time in the season, which that in its own right is a pretty crazy thing to say about this football team who has been through all the turmoil and trials that they've faced this season, and they could potentially still be the number 1 overall seed. It doesn't sound real coming out of my mouth when I'm saying it here on December 22nd. I mean, still got work to do. And maybe we should talk about that next. You got the Bears coming up next, and it's a short week. So maybe we should get into covering some of this, what the 49ers might face against the Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams. What are they going to look like? How is this 49ers team going to stack up? We'll talk about that next here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Dwayne Board, four-time Super Bowl champion, and Eric Crocker, one half of the Locked On 49ers podcast. And 49ers sitting in the driver's seat right now in the NFC in general, not just the NFC West, but all of the NFC could get the number one overall seed, which is bonkers to say at this point in the season, but it goes through Chicago next. The 49ers are taking on the Bears. Game is at Levi's. So that is a plus for the 49ers. Your last two games are at home. You get to do some home cooking for these last 2 weeks. And Dwayne, the Chicago Bears, a lot of comebacks late in games this season. Caleb Williams leads the NFL in fourth quarter comebacks this season, which is kind of a wild thing for, I did not realize that until literally today when I was boning up on my Bears knowledge. And are you worried about this Bears matchup? How do you think this is going to go?
Yeah, well, hey, we should be worried because you look at last week where they put up almost 400 yards. Rushing, the Bears rushed for 150 yards against Green Bay, and he threw for 250. And it's going to be a battle. And the good thing for us is that the 49ers don't have to go to Chicago. The Bears are coming here. And we hope that it's one of those days where it's raining, the weather is crappy, and make it 49er weather, not bear weather. Bear goes bad weather. Bears go in and hibernate. We want the Bears to hibernate. Okay, we don't want them out running wild.
Yeah, I mean, Crocky, I don't know how much of that Packers Bears game you caught, but man, the ending to that game, insane. I mean, for the Bears to get the onside kick, go down and score, and I mean, on with what 28 seconds left, I think it was. Caleb Williams threw the game tying touchdown pass, then they come back and win in overtime. Just huge win for the Bears and for that franchise. And they're hot right now, man. Like this team, I think, believes in itself. Their defense is kind of similar to the 49ers not in style, but in the sense of the bend but don't break mentality. This is a defense that's going to force a lot of turnovers. And what do you think would be the one key for the 49ers if they're going to be able to beat the Bears next week?
I think they have to do what they did tonight against the Colts, and you got to stop the run. Swift has been running very well for majority of this season. So you want to make sure that you kind of bottle him up and put it all on Caleb Williams' shoulders. Now, clearly watching Caleb Williams throw the ball, man, is a guy that has a special arm and ability for some explosive plays. I think he now more than ever is making a lot of plays with his legs. This is a guy that was the number one dual threat quarterback coming out of his class when he was coming out of high school. And you'd see him kind of use his legs a little bit to make plays and throw the ball, but now you're seeing him picking up yards on the ground with his legs as well. And that's very difficult to account for most defenses. So eliminating the big play, stopping the run, and making it to where Caleb Williams feels like everything is on him. He's still a very youthful quarterback. This would be kind of some situations that he maybe hasn't been in a ton. 49ers have to keep him in those pressure-packed situations. Game will also be on prime time, which wasn't an issue for him against Green Bay, especially late. They had him balled up for most of the game, but now the 49ers got to not just bottle him up for most of the game, they're going to have to bottle him up for an entire game. And that can be difficult sometimes when you're playing against a quarterback with his kind of talent.
Yeah, Croc, and you're right, because you're looking at a guy with movement, okay? Quarterbacks with movement right now, the 49ers don't have that defensive front that can handle a quarterback outside the pocket, okay? They don't have the speed that can go run the guy down. They got to make him stay in the pocket and make him a passing throw, make him a pocket thrower, and not a guy who gets out on the edge, because we've seen what happens when the 49ers have to go against a quarterback who can move and create space, okay? And they can't let that happen, and that's the thing that kind of bothers you, is like you're going to have to put a spy on Williams, and you can't let him go out and get outside of the tackle box, okay? You got to make him stay in the pocket and be a pocket passer.
Yeah, so that edge contain will be a big deal against those Chicago Bears, and they'll have a short week to prepare for that. I mean, they with the game on Monday night, those games get here a lot faster. So the 49ers will be taking on the Chicago Bears on Sunday Night Football, Christmas weekend or weekend after Christmas, I guess, whatever you want to call it. It's the day, the weekend after we get all the days off from work. You know what I mean? So it's the holiday weekend. Celebrate with some 49ers football and hopefully another 49ers win. It's all the time that we got for you guys today here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Thanks so much to all our everydayers sticking around and always riding with us and making us your first listen for everything 49ers you need to know. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, however you're listening, whether it's on the podcast version of whatever app you're using. Make sure you're subscribed, or on the YouTube channel, and you can see our beautiful faces. My made for radio face. I mean, I did come from KMBR, so I'm doing my best though. You know what I mean? Every now and again, the beard gets a little, I'm a little scraggly today, but yeah, we'll be better next week. I'll promise that. We'll be a little bit more cleaned up next week. So for myself, Eric Triple E Engel, for my guys Dwayne Board and Eric Crocker, we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.